We got people rolling in, I think. If there's anybody in the chat, um, let me know if I've got audio and visual. We should be good. Okay. All right, guys. So this is sort of the next round of live streaming that we're doing. This is kind of like I've taken some feedback on the first trial run that I that I made, and so really the goal is now going forward is to kind of keep these videos a little bit shorter, get to the point. I'm probably gonna show less concepts per video and just focus on one main concept, maybe one or two clips, something like that, and kind of do my best to, teach the average fan, something simple. And it's a little bit of, if it piques your interest, let me know, and we can go further into some of these things. But just teaching very basic, concepts. So maybe one day you get into, coaching a kids Pop Warner team, or maybe when you're watching the games, you can sort of spot certain things happening, and it kind of adds like a layer to what you're watching. Instead of just watching guys run around, um, you can kind of follow what teams want to do, what coaches want to do, why they're bringing in certain people, things to that effect. So anyway, let's see if we can get right into it. So, let me see. Okay, let's cut to yeah. Okay, so look, so I've selected. It's it's hard for me to get access to film, and I just have to find the game film and see. I kind of have to be at the mercy of ESPN to see when they give us these tight copies where it's just a front. I wish I could watch the game in this the whole time, or at least have the option. And maybe one day in the future they can do that for us, but I doubt it. Anyway, so moving on to just basic, basic, I guess, like, you know, offensive line, defensive line, just basic stuff, okay? And I'm gonna pull up my. There we go. Okay, cool. Put this right here. Put this right there. All right, now I can see. All right, guys. So obviously, looking at this, Miami appears to be in what's called 11 personnel, one running back, this guy, one tight end, this guy. Is functioning a little bit like a wing or an H back, or some would even consider that like a fullback, depending on the type of personnel you're using, down and distance, things like that. And we have a receiver out here, or actually two receivers out here, and then another one out here. And for purposes of this conversation, normally, um, we're getting into like, normally we want to just talk about the front, meaning both lines of scrimmage, okay, the second level, which is the linebackers, and then whoever is a primary run defender. And sometimes we don't really know who that is based off of alignment, but usually it's one or both of these safeties. Okay, so um, what you see here is kind of like a standard, run of the mill uh 4-3 over, kind of like the style where your Sam linebacker, your nickel is detached for the front. Okay, sort of in a more old school 4-3, you might see that Sam linebacker closer to the line of scrimmage here, or sorry, closer to the box. Like this guy right here would be closer to the box, and you see like a little bit more of that. And he's able to be he's able to be a contained defender, um, from like an inside out alignment, and it's usually coupled with help up here, with a over the top safety. So just talking about basic line stunts or basic line assignments. Um, in most one gap systems, you'll see one guy per gap. There's always one guy per gap, and it seems like the case here. There are systems that'll um, mix and match where one or two of the guys could be responsible for two gaps. That does happen. It's not very common, especially not as common in college football. It requires it's a lot more difficult for college kids to do stuff like this. So you got a guy playing what's called a five technique right here. He's on the outside shade of the tackle. You got another five technique out here. All right, he's again on the outside shade of the tackle, almost head up this wing. You could argue, you could argue he's playing a six technique, which would be splitting this guy in half. Okay. Keep in mind, we're talking about techniques, and the numbering of techniques, and then we'll link that in later to their gap assignment. Okay. And then as we go further, we'll talk about gap exchange and things of that nature. So, um, anyway, so moving on here, we have like a two eye. Uh, two eye is a guy playing an inside shade, an inside shade of the guard. So he's on the guard's inside shoulder here. If you guys haven't followed here, we cut every formation down the middle. Okay, this is the middle of the formation. You draw a line to the quarterback, to the center. That's the center of the formation, and then it's basically mirrored, right? So, when I say it's the inside shade of the guard, this would be inside as it relates to the center of the formation. If I say outside, it would be here. On this side, this is the inside. This is the outside. Okay, that's a two eye. It's basically a guy playing on the inside shade right here. Okay. And then we have what's called the three technique, playing playing on the outside shade of the guard. So, what does that tell you now? So, I've drawn basically four lines going into gaps. Here, let's take a step back. We'll go. I've got a diagram that I can show you guys. So we discussed, some of these things. We discussed 2i. We discussed, right. That's an inside shade of the guard. We discussed six technique right here. Six technique, basically drawing a line. Your head up the tight end. Okay. We spoke about five technique. Where's that at? I spoke about five technique. Okay, outside shade of the tackle, and we spoke about three technique. All right, outside shade of the guard. So it's basically it's a way to simplify. Just telling your guys what to do. Right. These guys are you want them to align many different ways. There's a bunch of different ways to sort of get lined up those those four guys. If you attach a number to it, it just gets easier. And then that number that and the reason why you say technique, okay, is because each one of these positions on the line, assuming there's no line stunt or even if there's a line stunt, I guess in some regards, but that's like a more advanced thing. But generally speaking, even if there's so generally speaking, when there's no line stunt, each of these techniques has its own way of being played, right? And really all of them can be broken down into inside shades and outside shades. I'm not gonna talk about head up shades except for six techniques. So four, three, sorry, 4-2-0. I'm not gonna talk about those. That's kind of like a different style of defense. But generally, all the shaded techniques where you're picking a side of a lineman can be split up into two things: inside shades like a 2Y, and outside shades like a 5, a 3, like a 9, things like that. Those are all outside shades, and um, it's there's different footwork, there's different pressure points. There's different ways to play each, and you know. Uh, all the inside techniques are kind of similar. All the outside techniques are kind of similar. So now, just taking our eyes from here to here, okay, we see gap assignments, okay, and this is basic football. A gap, B gap, C gap, D gap, okay. You're probably asking, if you're an astute person, you're probably asking, what about E gap? I mean, E gap technically exists, but it gets defended by the sidelines, so you don't have to worry about it. Um, and Each one of these techniques corresponds to a gap assignment. All right, you're playing a one gap defense, you get one gap. Five technique is a C gap player. Three technique is a B gap player. Two Y technique or one technique is an A gap player. And so how you fit the run. I mean, same thing for linebackers, right? So same thing for linebackers. So if we scroll down a little bit here, talk about a linebacker. Like a if you are a you know you could be like a 20 stack, a 50 stack, a 30 stack. They just add a zero to all the other techniques, and that's what applies to a linebacker. It doesn't really matter, but essentially, how you fit your runs, or the way that you execute your run fits are based off of which gap assignment you have. Okay, and we'll get into that at some point. So let's get back to the photo right here. Let's clear the whiteboard, and we'll talk about what we're seeing right here. Okay, this six technique, he's a head up technique. Arguably, he's in a five because it has a wing. I'm not sure how they're playing it. Either way, it doesn't really matter because he's a C gap player. Right? This is a C gap. This is a B gap. This is an A gap. This is another A gap. This is a B gap. This is a C gap. Okay. Where's D gap? D gap's outside of the slot receiver, so somewhere out there. Okay. And then this D gap is right here. Okay. So taking it a step further, this guy's in that gap. This guy's in that gap. This guy's in that gap. This guy's in this gap. Okay. Who is the Mike linebacker? Generally speaking, in a front like this, your Mike linebacker is the guy that's being protected by the three technique, or protected by the eagle, or protected by the whatever phrase you wanna give, to other guy that's not playing in the bubble, which is the bubble is this right here. And there's a bunch of names that people use. It's just a guy that's being covered up by the three technique. Okay, this Mike linebacker is an A gap player. Okay, and he's a flow player, right? He's he's gonna be going this way. Um, on like yeah, technically there's no gap for him. With flow this way, he's not responsible for any gap necessarily. Okay, but if the team wants to run power and create gaps, or they want to run counter this way, or they want to do bring blockers this way, gaps will be created. So that's your mic right here. This is your weak side inside guy. So strong side inside guy, weak side inside guy. Some teams call this like a will. Some teams call this a Sam. Some teams call this a Mike. It doesn't matter what they call it. This is your strong side guy. This is your weak side guy. This weak side guy it's kind of like a mirrored position to like a Sam linebacker or like a nickel. He if in like a pure 4-3 old school, this is kind of like in past assignments like a 2x2 set. He had basically the same job as a nickel most of the time. So this is a B gap player, okay, uh, and then he's also an opposite A player, okay. So really, really, who then becomes your D gap player, right? Who are your D gap players? Right now, in a situation like this, you know, Georgia Tech was playing a bunch of like soft quarters coverages. They were also mixing in like showing quarters, and then kind of like disguising, and then moving to like cover three cloud type of thing, like basically like cloud coverage where you're playing. It looks like cover two in the sense that you got a hard corner and then a very soft safety playing a deep third. So this guy would kind of be in a third, he'd be in a third, and then the other corner over there will be in a third. This corner will be your flat player, and he would be your D gap player, and then your other D gap player would be this nickel. But they were doing a lot of that. They were kind of mixing it up. They were never really showing the same thing. But just to bring it back to what I'm talking about here, let's just assume they're in the most ubiquitous coverage in all of football, quarters coverage. Okay, and let's just say that's the case, right? So um, we have uh, a deep safety right here. Oh, we got another one right here. These guys in quarters are primary run defenders. On the snap of the ball, usually this guy is not even backpedaling. He's kind of just sitting there or buzzing his feet or hopping or just doing something to kind of like be active but not really start back. He's not a guy that's gonna be backpedaling on the snap. He's gonna take a read, and once he sees run action, either way, if sees run action coming towards him or run action going away from him, he's gonna press down to the line of scrimmage, as will he. And once the flow gets declared, if it goes this way, he becomes your D gap defender. Okay, if he goes that way, then he becomes a cutback player. He becomes a fill player. Um, so just just to kind of just to kind of summarize here, I'm kind of giving like a little bit of a holistic explanation for what I want to be sticking to, which is defensive line techniques. Right. So again, it's a one gap defense. It's a one gap defense, which means we got one guy to a gap, and um, I'm just trying to illustrate that there's one person per gap. You know, pretty simple. Okay, so now moving forward, what are we gonna do? Okay, so now the concept of gap exchange. Okay, gap exchange. Okay, so once we see, once these linemen, let me see if I can find. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can find some like run fit explanations. Nah, I'm not gonna do it. Okay. Okay, so um, getting back to this, like I said before, say they want to run counter, say they want to run something like that, right? If you don't know what counter is, if you don't know what power is, if you don't know what zone is, or inside zone or outside zone, um, we're talking about I'm gonna use the explanation of you know what? Let's talk about power, okay? Power's like super common play. Not as popular anymore, but for me growing up, every game against any team that was worth anything, your job on defense was to stop power. And so what that it's basically what people nowadays call um, like man blocking schemes or pin and pull. That's like the most popular term today, right? So um, the goal is to kick out this end, okay, and double down to the linebacker. Um, so let's talk about that. So the way it works, you get a double team at the point of attack, okay, double team at the point of attack, breaking off to to, to the play side linebacker. Okay, we get a down block by the center on the A gap player. This A gap player is gonna get pinned. We'll put this guy in motion. Okay, he's gonna kick out this end. This end, like his job is to basically push him outwards. Okay, kick him out, and then there'll be a gap created right here. Okay, uh, that gap is supposed to be filled by this backside guard. Okay, and the running back. Uh, this guy seals off the backside. So now talking about let's clear everything and just talk about the point of attack. Double right here, double down to the backer. Okay, this kick out block. What just happened right here? What just happened? Okay, we just got a new gap created, right? So we talked about a gap right here, talked about a gap right here, a gap, A B C D out here. This guy just exited this area, okay, and is coming this way to now basically create a gap. So this guy, don't forget, he is he is a he's a five technique, right? Five technique right here. Oh, what does that tell you? He's a C gap player, right? He's a C gap player. So his job is to maintain the C gap. So when this defensive tackle comes down on this three technique, his job is to basically close the distance, and he wants to to basically take on the block with his outside shoulder to the inside shoulder of this guy, and come under the block, and climb back up field. Okay, what does that do? That basically that shuts his gap, right? So what the offense wants to do is come in, kick him out, and then create a gap right here. He fits the block to the inside. Okay, that gap that they want to create now gets pushed outwards. Now this guard's got to pull through outside of all this trash, and this back is kind of left with really two options. He can cut back this way, or he has to go all the way around this, and he's running sideways. He's running sideways all the while. We have a flowing linebacker. We have a pressing safety. We have a backside backer checking cutback. And then we have this guy here also playing cutback. So, it's just a very, very simple, explanation, or it's the concept is gap exchange. So let's do one more example of gap exchange. Now using just like a simple outside zone. Okay, let's just say for the sake of this, we will have this tight end's gonna get, so this guy buzzes down, this tight end's gonna go get the safety. Okay, all right, let's just say that for now. All right, and this offensive tackle is going to go to what we named earlier as the weak side backer. He's gonna go right here, try and dig him out. We're gonna get a double right here, and we're gonna get a we're gonna get blocks out here. Okay, so basically, what's happening is it's like a zone blocking scheme, and all that has to happen for the defense to stop this is just to play in the gap. Just don't get washed out. Play in your gap. Play in your gap. Play your gap. Okay. Now, really, the conundrum becomes these two guys right here, because really this offensive tackle, it could be said that he has an angle on this guy, right? He can go straight to him, and then there's space. Say this end just plays his gap. Something that there's, when it comes to gap exchange, it's, you gotta have consistency. Both the end and this linebacker have to be in sync. So if this tackle comes to get this guy, and he's got an angle on him, you're getting hammered on it, something you can do is you can exchange the gaps, right? So this guy comes down, this end can play this B gap from behind the line of scrimmage, and then this linebacker scrapes over top of him, plays his C gap, right? So anyway, this is just a real simple, I really just tried to find the best photograph or still that shows the most simple defensive set and offensive set. I mean, this is like really basic alignment. I don't even know what the down and distance is on this, and I don't even know what happens on this play. But let's see what happens.
Chaney's 210. We won't see the
Actually, that's
freshman Fletcher tonight, who's 2 1/4.
Yeah, I think they're both just
5 goes Don Chaney Jr.
see if we can see it.
Tim, is there any kind of variation between these guys? I mean, Parrish is 190.
Okay. All right, cool. So really, really, Georgia Tech is outnumbered. Okay. They've got 6 guys here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they don't have a safety down yet. I mean, this guy's in the numbers. He's supposed to be doing something. It looks like they're rolling. Looks like
Chaney's 2.
It looks like they're rolling. I can't say for sure. You know, it seems like he's gonna go over here. He's supposed to be buzzing down, but they're already outnumbered. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so like I drew up, we got a double team here, got a double team here, and I drew this up too. I drew that up. This tackle and this tight end, it looks like the tackle and the tight end are playing a game with these 2 guys, because Rivers doesn't just release. Rivers just doesn't release straight to the linebacker. I think Rivers was expecting contact from the end, didn't get it, and just climbed. Chaney does a good job. Chaney does a good job of being patient, which he sometimes is not patient at all. Gets a little bit too worked up, and also that's also because of lack of experience. You know, he basically every year he comes in hot and then gets injured. You know, knock on wood. Okay, so let's
10.
Okay, cool. This is you know, we've already discussed this. This Mike linebacker is I'm not sure what the hell he's doing. You get it, you know, zone reads, you gotta fill your A gap, right? He's an A gap guy. This guy's got to be quicker. So this guy's got to be quicker to his B gap, because right now this cutback lane is open. Cam McCormick does a great job sealing, which should have been a C gap guy. He basically sealed him out of his own gap. So really, Chaney has 2 options. I mean, Chaney's got 2 options. Like he has the cutback, which should be getting filled by the safety, and then he can just try and beat the linebacker to A and muscle him through. Let's see what he did.
We won't see the freshman Fletcher tonight, who's 2 1/4.
Yeah, I think they're both just
Very nice. So anyway, that's just kind of like a quick lesson on defensive front football. You know, you could go farther into this topic, and you can talk about you know, what are called triangle reads. You know, basically talking
really
about
good all-around backs.
how you want to
15.
like how like defensive linemen basically read what they're going to be doing on any given
Straight
play.
ahead. That's McCormick, the tight end, in motion, and now Van Dyke with the play
Like,
clock
if
at
I were to
15.
pull it up here. Actually, I can't pull it up here. Let's see.
Straight ahead, here's Chaney bouncing again. First down to the 35. Goes Don Chaney Jr.
Quick sentence on
Tim, is there any kind of variation between these guys? I mean, Parrish is 190, Chaney's
So, like-
210.
Oh shit! I missed it. I missed my chance.
Straight ahead, here's Chaney bouncing again. First down to the 35. Goes Don Chaney Jr.
So we go back to
Tim, is there any kind of variation between these guys? I mean, Parrish is 190.
All right, here we go. So really, you know, these defensive linemen. Let's use this guy here. It's what's called like a triangle read, which, I mean, you can break this down at like a granular level. You know, his um basically his reads go to the near back, to to the backside guard, like in here. Like this is where he's reading, you know, what he's supposed to be doing, right? So he gets a down block. This guy right here, his eyes are immediately checking this direction, here and here. He's gonna get either puller, or he's getting it back, or quarterback. So, it, you know, again, we can go through this at detail. I'm gonna have to find better clips. That's probably like the hardest thing about doing this is finding material. I just don't have any material whatsoever, and it's been years since I've done this, so I'm gonna have to find a source. If anybody at at UM wants to give me game film, I would be happy to put it to good use. Yeah, you know, I think the game was a little bit frustrating. You know, I don't want to give like too much of a summary, but and you know, I don't want to beat a dead horse. But I thought we played great on defense. And I think there was something horribly wrong with the series of events that led to us losing the game. Obviously, we can, you know, everything gets fixed by controlling something that's very controllable, which is taking a knee. You know, it's probably the most effective play in the history of football. It's probably has the best completion percentage, so to speak. And you know, you wanna, as a coach or as you know, you know, when you look at the game and you think about what you could have done better, or that's what you want to do every game. You know, go back and watch the film and get better. There's a whole long list of things that were ugly on offense. There were things that were ugly on defense at the end of the game. There were a ton of things that were ugly by the officials. Probably the worst officiated game that I've ever watched. And it's hard to even talk about those things because of just the concept of, you know, losing a game that you could have won if you just made the easiest decision ever. But you still have to talk about it, right? So, plenty of things to fix. North Carolina favored by 4 this Saturday. I'll be watching. I'm not sure if there's a watch party this weekend at Titanic or not. If there is one, I'm probably going to be there. You know, if you guys want to catch me, you know, I'll probably be eating wings and a Diet Coke. That's like my go-to. So if you guys get any questions, post them in the chat. If you guys want me to talk about any topics, if you want me to expand on anything, if you want me to, you know, if you want to do kind of Q&A live, you guys can give me the content. I can talk about it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.